Hello there, and welcome to the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast. I'm so glad you're joining me here today. As you likely guessed by now, my name is Denise Alvarez. And before we dive into today's episode, I'm going to quickly introduce myself, just in case for new friends, and then we'll get right into the meat of what I want you to take away from today. Now, as I said, my name is Denise, and through my business, Storm Lily Marketing, I get to help dream-chasing horse business owners to ditch the marketing overwhelm, get the clarity they've been craving, and grow their business in a way that meets their definition of success. Now, I do this primarily through business and marketing coaching, and then education such as this podcast, and I have some online learning resources for you as well. All that I do, friends, is so that you, as an equestrian entrepreneur, can be out doing what it is that you love to do, whether you are in the barn, behind the camera, in the arena, making tack, wherever you are serving the equine industry. I want to help you do more of that. And so here on this podcast, you will get a mix of step-by-step strategies, essential how-tos, and entrepreneurial mindset shifts that will help you not only see what's possible for your horse business, but I'm also here to guide you through that process so you can make it happen. And now today, as I said, we have a very quote unquote meaty episode. You're going to get some good information and practical takeaways. That's always my heart, okay? And today specifically, what I want to talk about is this idea of should and what it really means. So the title of the episode talks about if you want to level up, it's time to stop doing this. And we're going to get there. But here's the why behind this, all right? I literally this week had a coaching client tell me that she was frustrated with the way her content was performing, and she fell back to, maybe I'm just boring. And I get it, because naturally we internalize, especially as an entrepreneur. Your heart and soul is going into this business that you are building and the horses and the people that you help. And so when our marketing does not work like we expect it to, then oftentimes we internalize the results, right? Because we've poured our heart and soul into this, and then we don't get what we expected, right? The results you hoped for, the sales, the conversions, the client bookings, whatever that is. But what if the problem is actually not you? Which, by the way, I do not think it is. What if it actually has something to do with just the numbers, that you actually need more eyes on your content in order to get conversions, because that's how marketing works? What if the problem is the expectations that you're measuring yourself against? That's what we're going to address today. Because when you stop doing that, then you can actually be prepared to do the things that you need to do strategically to level up in your equine business. So yes, a part of this is going to be talking about comparison, but it actually also has to do with being a high achiever and having those big goals and dreams that you have for your business. And then we're also going to address the fact that you just need to look at the data in order to make good, informed decisions that remove your emotions from the mix. Because, building a horse business, there are some emotions that come along with that. But here's what I know for sure. The expectations that you have, that's what we need to stop resting on and realize that those could actually be what's holding you back. So your next level starts when you stop comparing your results to everyone else's, and instead you anchor your expectations and your goals in reality. Now, let's be clear. When I say to ground your goals in reality, I don't mean you need to shrink back those dreams because they're just not realistic. That's not dreaming big, right? But it does mean setting expectations based on real data rather than guesswork or comparison, because that's what it looks like to be strategic in growing your equine business. And when you stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's results without knowing their full story or support system, then you make room for clarity and smart strategic decision making. And that's what's going to fuel long-term sustainable growth for your equine business. And that is my heart for you. Yes, to do more of what you love, and to do it in a way that is sustainable so that you can do it for as long as you want. So what does that look like on a practical level? Okay, that's what we're going to dive into. You guys know here on the podcast, I'm all about being strategic and then breaking it down and saying, okay, what does that actually look like? And so that's what we're going to do on the podcast. Okay, I'm going to share 4 ways that you can ground your expectations in reality while keeping those big dreams that you're chasing front and center. Okay, so grab your notepads or head to the show notes if you would like. I've got the highlights of this on the, I've got the highlights of this episode on the show notes. It truly is just the highlights, you guys. So like this is the meat and potatoes of the podcast. Okay, so the show notes is there to help you if you need to go fill in the gaps for some of the things we're talking about. But I definitely would say the show notes don't replace the podcast. You get that, by the way, at Storm Lily, so Storm, Lily, all one word, .com/193 for episode 193. Okay, so we've got the highlights there, but if you're available to write some of these things down, do it. Or you can do what I do. A lot of times I actually don't write a lot of notes down when I listen to podcasts. Sometimes I do in my notes app, but I've gotten to where I screenshot the transcript that shows up in a lot of the podcast players, or I will do a screen recording of things I want to remember. So just a little tip there for you of things that you can do if you're trying to remember some of the information, but you're not in a place to write that down. Okay, back to the episode. 4 ways to ground your expectations in reality while keeping your big dreams you're chasing front and center. First of all, I want you to anchor your identity. Now, this means specifically, of course, we're talking about your business, okay? You may tell me, Denise, I am, and then fill in the blank, okay? Or I'm doing this for, or this is the why and heart behind my business. But do you really, really know that? And are you anchored in it? So that when you see what someone else is doing, you know what you're in it for. You know your why. You know what success means to you. And so when you see what someone else is doing, and for a second it looks like, oh, maybe that's what success looks like to me, then you go back and go, wait, I've already defined that. Here's what success means for me in this season of business and this season of life for the capacity that I have right now. Well, it doesn't mean it doesn't evolve and change over time. But if it evolves and change every time you see someone else doing something really cool, or every time you have a brand new idea and you think maybe this is the thing, then you are not anchored in your identity as a horse business owner, as an entrepreneur, okay? And so I want you to know with confidence why you're doing what you're doing, what success means to you, what your version of enough is for your business. And this way, you're not going to chase someone else's numbers in order to build a profitable and aligned equine business. You're going to chase your version of success. And it's still going to take hard work. So I'm not saying like, know who you are, and then it's so easy and it's not going to take work. Okay? Success does require work. You guys know that. So that's not the heart behind what I'm saying. But what I am saying is if you will anchor your identity in knowing who you are and knowing you are enough no matter what. And I believe because you're a child of God, you are enough no matter what. Knowing your version of enough for your business, knowing those numbers we'll talk about in a minute. When you know those things, then you're not going to be as swayed by these expectations that can so easily come when we start to compare and when we start to think about what we should be doing or we're not as far as we should be. All of those things, okay? So anchor your identity. Secondly, know the industry standards. Okay, now here's why I'm saying this. And I'm going to give you some very specific industry standards that are important to know that may surprise you, honestly. Because oftentimes what happens when we're trying to market, when we're trying to launch a new offer, when we have a new product and service, we have a sale, and we have this idea of, I would like to sell this number or this amount, but it's really just based on not much of anything except for what we want, then that can be really frustrating when we don't get those results. And it also means we don't know how to identify why we didn't get those results, okay? What's working, what's not working, what's a realistic conversion that we could expect. So rather than basing your expectations and your hopes solely on how you feel, or even from the feedback that you maybe get from 1 or 2 people that starts to shape how you problem solve, I instead want you to look at the numbers. I heard somebody say this, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but does the math. Okay. So sometimes you're avoiding the numbers, you're avoiding the math, but the reality is to grow your equine business in a profitable, sustainable way, you've got to know your numbers. Okay. So let's look at some of these industry standards to help you understand, was this even a realistic expectation in the first place? Okay. So first, we're going to look at landing pages. Landing page literally means, and let me back up. What we're going to look at, by and large, is talking about online marketing, okay? But this could, of course, come into play. You can Google and find the industry standards for other ways that you're doing things. So if you're at clinics and expos, maybe you have a good idea of what to expect with an in-person conversion rate, okay? But the ones I want to look at today are mostly online. Honestly, most of the people that come to me for coaching, those are the questions that they have, is this online marketing piece, okay? So back to it. A landing page. Landing page is literally when you want somebody to buy something, it's not your home page that you're sending them to. It's a specific landing page. Oftentimes, it's also considered the sales page, okay? So when we're looking at a conversion rate for that, what we're looking at is from the number of people that actually go and land on your landing page, how many of those convert to become customers? What I would love for you to do actually is in your mind, think of a number that your guess would be. I would be so curious. Actually, send me a message. Tell me on some of these, like, this is what I expected a landing page conversion to be, or this is what I expected when I tell you some of the others. I would love to know what you guys think. If you were live, I would so be asking you. Okay, because here's what I think might actually blow your mind. And I hope encourages you, okay, to see that the average conversion rate for a landing page, and actually, let me call that, I believe they said this was medium because they got rid of the outliers, 6.6% when they looked at Q4 2024. Now, of course, there's a lot of variation in this, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So industry standard is just looking at e-commerce and online marketing. Then inside of that, you could certainly try to break it down. And they do break it down based on like restaurant and food or fitness and training, or they break it down. Unfortunately, they don't break it down to the equine industry specifically. But the average of those numbers is still around 6%, 6.6%. So if you think about that, if you get 100 people to your landing page, a good number that you could be proud of would be 6 people buying. That's what that means. And why I hope that encourages you is because some of you probably are actually having pretty good conversion rates, but you've been beating yourself up thinking that it's not converting at what it should be. So I hope that this encourages you, and yes, also helps you to maybe identify, and we'll talk about that in a bit, some of the areas where you could improve in order to see growth and get the results that you want. Okay, so for sure, I want you to pay attention to the fact that this can vary depending on the product that you have. Okay, so for example, this, by the way, I link to the sources for these conversion rates and things like that on the show notes in case you want to go deeper. But let's look, for example, if it's a newsletter sign-up page and you're getting 5% conversions, they would actually consider that to be pretty low. Okay, it's a very low risk offer, just putting the name and email address down. So hopefully you're getting more than 5% conversions for your lead magnet, for example, and your email newsletter sign up. Now that's for a specific landing page. I'm not just talking about a box you have on your homepage. Okay. But for example, if you have a low ticket product that's, say, a digital offer that's $17, $30, that type of thing, $47, they would actually consider 5% to be a pretty good conversion rate for that. But if you have a sales page for a $10,000 product, and I know some of you may be going, what the heck? But I know there are a variety of people listening, okay? So you may have a high ticket product that's even a $5,000 product. If you're getting a 5% conversion rate on that, then industry standard would say that's actually pretty good. That's actually really good. Okay, so knowing what you're trying to get them to buy, it matters, but knowing that 6% is that average number that we're looking at for landing pages. All right, so now let's move on to a conversion event such as, let me explain this because I know this is getting somewhat deep into the marketing jargon and I want you to stick around for this, okay, because it matters greatly. So if you have a webinar that you are hosting, if you're hosting a challenge, perhaps, maybe you're doing a live workshop. Obviously, if it's live and pre-recorded, those are going to give you different numbers. But generally speaking, okay, 7% is about what they would expect for conversions on that. So again, meaning if you're doing a challenge and you get 100 people in that challenge, then if you've got 7 people that buy, that's actually considered a good conversion. And again, you may be listening going, what the heck, Denise? I worked really hard to get 100 people in there. I worked really hard to get 200 people in there, and I'm expecting 14 people to buy. Again, just remember that the importance of knowing these numbers is so that you can set clear goals that actually align with your outcomes that you want. So if you want more than 14 people in there, then you're going to focus on getting that traffic and getting the right people in the door, getting more of those right people in the door, okay? Which again, we'll talk about the diagnosing here in a minute. All right, now I've got 2 more numbers for you that I want you to look at, okay? Well, actually, I lied. This one, I lumped together 3, all with an email. Okay, so the other industry standard that can be good for you to know is email open rates, click-through rates, and conversion rates. So you've heard me talk a lot on the podcast and in my social media and on my newsletter, all the things about email marketing and the power in email marketing for equine businesses and how underestimated it is. That doesn't mean build your list and they will come. And that doesn't mean just build your list and they will buy. There's, of course, strategy behind all of the things that we're going to do. But what I want you to see here is what is a good open rate, what's a good click-through rate, and what's a good conversion rate when you're trying to sell. Okay. Now, looking at opens across like variety of industries, 30% continues to be, and it has been for years. I look this up regularly, and 30% has been the number for a few years now that people are considering that's a pretty good open rate. Like if you're getting less than 30%, you definitely want to pay close attention to optimizing that. If you're getting above 30%, yes, still make wise decisions to optimize, but just know you're in a good place. Okay. Now, again, open rate means of the 100 people, just to keep the math super simple for me, of the 100 people that get your email, 30% actually open it, so 30 people, okay? Now, click-through rate means of those 30 people that got your email and opened it, how many actually clicked? That's the click-through rate, okay? So the average is 2 to 3%. That is a good click-through rate. So if you got a 2% click-through rate, and most email service providers right now are going to give you those numbers. Okay, so you're not going to go have to do the math. They're going to give that to you. Let's say, for example, you've got 500 people on your list, 150 people opened the email. That would be 30%. And then say 3% clicked. That's 4.5 people. Okay, 3% of the 150. So again, good to know your numbers so that when you look at your stats and I tell you to go track these things, you're not beating yourself up unnecessarily, because sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes you go, okay, I've got 500 people on my list and 5 people clicked and I'm supposed to be happy with that. No, always look for ways to get more engagement, but also realize what is considered normal so that you are not so hard on yourself and thinking it's you that is the problem. Sometimes there's not a problem, and sometimes it's not you. It's just, what can we do to get more people to open your emails? What can we do to get more people to click? Okay. So last thing I want you to listen in terms of industry standards is ad click-through rates. I know many of you are running social media, Facebook ads, Google ads, different things like that. And what I'm going to give you today is the numbers for Facebook, because that's the one that, as I talk to clients and potential clients, Facebook ads is the one that comes up the most. Okay. So again, what does conversion rate mean here? Your conversion rate for an ad click-through is the percentage of people who take action after they click your ad, okay? So it may be a purchase, it may be a sign-up, it may be a download, whatever it is, the conversion that your campaign is tracking in Facebook ads and Meta, that is the conversion rate, okay? So we're looking at the number of conversions divided by the total number of visitors, all right? Knowing that, in 2024, the average conversion rate for Facebook ads across all industries was 9.2%. Now, this year, they're already saying they've seen that dip a little bit to 8.95%, but that gives you a good ballpark picture. The article that I read also said if you're trying to diagnose, again, because industries can range so much. So some of the industries they see are getting up to 15% conversion rate, which is really high. I think that was, if I say it, I'm going to say it wrong. So I'll link to that article in the show notes. But they definitely said, look, if you're getting 9%, that's a great number. If you're getting under 3%, definitely be concerned and see what you can do to fix that. So again, I'm telling you these things because our second point here and how we really ground ourselves in reality while having big dreams is knowing the real numbers so that then you can measure that and diagnose and figure out what works, which is the third thing. Okay, so first you're going to anchor your identity, then you're going to know your industry standards. Then I want you to pay attention to measuring what actually matters. There are so many things that you could measure in your business, okay? But at the end of the day, if you are measuring the things that are, I don't want to call it wrong, but are not really giving you a full picture and full information so you can make an informed decision, it's not going to help you. You'll be missing the information that's actually going to help you. Okay, so for example, if you're paying attention to revenue, that's great. I'm so thankful that you are. And even if you're breaking it down by category and product offering or something like that, lovely. Are you also paying attention to the profit margin that you have in your business? Because I want you to build something sustainable. So you've got to have that profit, right? What about on social media, what you're measuring? Are you only measuring your number of followers, or are you measuring things that are in your control, such as how often you are posting every month, or how many times you are making an ask in a month? Are you actually trying to sell to get those conversions? Or maybe you're measuring direct conversations that happen on social media. So what are the things around social media that you're measuring that are actually connected to the goals you have for your business? That is what measuring what matters looks like, okay? Now, it's not going to look the same for everybody. You all listening have different businesses, different business models, different goals, but there are definitely some similarities in the key performance indicators that you're going to want to track. And so that's why inside of Take the Reins, that's one of the things that we do is create a customized Measure What Matters dashboard for every client so that we can really, truly pay attention to the things that you care about and the things that are in your control that are going to help you to move the needle, which is the fourth thing I want you to hear today. The fourth thing you're going to do is to focus on the needle movers. There are so many things that are included when we talk about marketing your equine business. But if you try to do all of them at the same time, you are absolutely going to dilute the results that you're going to get. So instead of trying to fix everything, let's figure out by measuring what matters and looking at the funnels and looking at the customer journey, what are the things that if we made a tweak here or there would actually move the needle for you? Can you identify what's most important rather than just what's urgent? And you can do that by looking at your numbers and then deciding what do we need to fix. So let me give you a very practical example. One of my clients right now is an author. And so, of course, one of the goals, right, is selling her books. Well, rather than just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and saying, well, it's your social, this is what's going on, or it's the website or whatever, like these are the key things. If we just would tweak this, then you would get XYZ, right? Rather than just guessing, we've been going to the data and looking at the website traffic, looking at how people are engaging. Are they engaging? Is there a clear customer journey to even get to the books that we are wanting them to sell? How are people getting to the website? Are we increasing the traffic? And how are we going to do that? There's so many different pieces. And as I say that to you, you may be going, holy smokes, Denise, that's still a lot. We're not doing it all at one time. Okay, we're saying, all right, let's look at this sales page. What can we do to increase conversions here? Next, let's move to this piece, right? So we're doing it intentionally, but knowing these are the things that are going to move the needle to actually help you get more sales. We can have a great sales page, but if we don't have traffic, that's not going to help us to get conversions, right? So there are multiple things that you can focus on, but if you're doing them all at one time, you're going to dilute your results 100%. So by giving her a clear plan and, okay, this is what I want you to do now. Next, we're going to address this. then she can have the peace of mind to know that she's working on the things that are actually going to help her and it's going to be sustainable. It's not just a shot in the arm. It's the things that are actually going to be connected to what she wants to do more of and connected to increasing the sales of those books, which is, of course, the goal for an author, right? Okay, so let me recap this for you guys because I know this was I told you it was going to be a meaty episode. Okay, so number one, and I say meaty, and then of course I'm always going, I probably have vegetarian friends that are listening. I love my vegetarian friends too. Okay, but you get what I'm saying. All right, number one, I want you to anchor your identity as an equestrian business owner, as an entrepreneur. Know who you are, know who you're for, know you are enough, and build and grow from that. Secondly, know your industry standards. Stop doing the guesswork and the hopeful I almost said guesswork again, but stop guessing, okay? Know your industry standards and move from there. All right, third, measure what matters. And then fourth, focus on those needle movers. When you do these things, you guys, then you have clarity, then you have strategy, then you don't have space for that comparison, okay? So how do you take this and apply it? What's the next step? All right. I know I've given you a lot of things. So you could certainly look at that list of 4 and start at the top and move down. Let me give you some very specific things that you can do starting today. Okay. Number 1, start a tracking mechanism. It can be a very simple spreadsheet and measure the things that matter most for you. Okay. The things that you can control that are connected to what's going to help you grow and build your business, okay? Then, so number 1, start tracking. Number 2, let's address that mindset because you can have the best tracker and then you can open up that social media app and it can send you down a spiral real fast, okay? So the next thing I want you to do is actually create a new loop, a new action plan so that as soon as you see that person that you are like, oh, she's doing what I wanted to do, I should be there. Or why is she getting more comments on her post and I'm getting crickets over here on this, okay? Yes, learn from those things, but stop yourself mentally from going down that rabbit hole by preparing ahead of time. When this happens, this is what I'm going to say to myself. Okay, so maybe some of you may have some mantras that you already have held on to, but what is it that you can say yourself that returns you to what's true about you, your capacity, your season of life? And maybe it's as simple as I talk to myself all the time. So it may be as simple as saying, Denise, stay in your lane. Like that's it. If I'm going through, I'm looking at it, Denise, stay in your lane. You know what God's called you to. And then sticking with that. But figure out what your mantra is that you can return to, okay? And then I want you to consider getting support. Now, you've heard me say this over the past few episodes, and I promise it's because I care so much about this because I've experienced it and I've seen it. Literally just this week, I was checking in with somebody who had a clarity coaching call with me. So that's just like a 60-minute one-time call. It's not ongoing coaching and support, and you can get that anytime at stormlily.com/clarity. So I was just checking back in with her because while she's not paying for ongoing support, I care about my people. And as I did, then we were talking about some things and she was like, this is why it's so helpful to get outside help and to get another set of eyes. And to be honest with you, the same thing happened to me this morning as I was talking to somebody on a Zoom, well, it wasn't Zoom, it was Google Meet, a call about Storm Lily Ranch. Side note, for those who don't know, I'm also in the process of, we've started a 501c3 working on this nonprofit, Storm Lily Ranch. You can learn more on my website. But she was encouraging me with some things and saw some blind spots that I had missed. And I said to her, this is why it's so important and so valuable to get that outside help. So I'm telling you this, not just because I do it for a living, but because I've seen it, experienced it, and I want that for you. So whether it is coaching, which I would love to talk to you about, whether it is getting to a group program where you're learning from peers, or whether it is calling up a friend that you trust and saying, hey, I'm kind of spiraling. This launch is really frustrating me. Here's where I'm at. And they can bring you back to reality. Okay. So those are the practical ways that you're going to truly level up in your business. Okay. Now, again, If you're saying, Denise, I'm hearing you talk about the coaching aspect and I'm realizing I need help to figure out what do I need to measure? I need help to figure out what are the needle movers, how I'm going to meet my goals in my business, define success and figure those pieces out. I would love to talk to you about Take the Reins. It is my one-on-one coaching program specifically created to help growth-minded equestrian entrepreneurs to truly ditch the marketing overwhelm for good and have a cohesive plan for your social media, your website, and your email marketing that is grounded in reality, grounded in your goals, and actually gives you a clear, confident plan for moving forward. So if that's you, if you're like, Denise, that's exactly what I need right now, I would love to invite you to apply. If you go to stormlily.com/reins, you will find that link, or you can, of course, go to the show notes or send me a message anytime on social media. But I will tell you this, you guys, you've heard me talk about Take the Reins for the past few weeks because I am enrolling new clients right now, but I'm also working on something for a group experience. Now, this is not the same. It's going to be something brand new and different in terms of high touch, personalized, customized. That's one-on-one, and that's important and necessary for many of you. And some of you are saying, Denise, I'm actually not at a place where I really need a lot of support in between calls, but it would be so helpful to meet with fellow growth-minded entrepreneurs where we can learn from one another, where we can brainstorm about specific problems, ideas that we have that we're stewing on. That's what is possible with a group experience. So I'm so excited for this, you guys. So stay tuned. Make sure you're on my email list. It's always going to be the first to know. So go to my website and get on there. Send me a message if you would like to learn more about it. But it's in the works, okay? So one-on-one is not going anywhere. I will continue to do that and love doing that and supporting you guys on your journeys and helping you to get clarity on your marketing strategy. So that will continue. And then in 2026, we're going to try something new as well and start a new group program. All right. So stay tuned for that. But either way, let's circle it back to why we came here today in the first place. You want to level up in your equine business. And I am so thrilled that you are here on the podcast to do that. So take what you have learned here. It's completely free. And it also still has the power to transform your business if you will apply what you've learned. So pick one thing you're going to do and start applying it, and then let me know how it changes because I know it's going to. Thanks so much for being here, friends. Stay tuned. We have more new episodes. I have a new guest for you coming up next week or the week after. I'll have to double check, but I have a new guest to bring to you. I can't wait for you to meet him. But in the meantime, have an amazing day.